speaker is yang berbahagia saudara Abdul Aziz Isa. So he used to be my former student before at Unimas, and now I think he is a rising star in politics as a political secretary to YB Tuan Chong Chen Chen. His topic is referendum and DAP's view. So please welcome Saudara Abdul Aziz Isa. Thank you. Twenty minutes. 20 minutes.
Hello. Thank you to the moderator. Firstly, I would like to apologize because I didn't prepare my PowerPoint because I didn't know that every speaker have to prepare a PowerPoint. So I'm going to present it in a conservative way, like a lecturer giving a lecture in front of the students. Just using my paper, white paper here. So thank you to the moderator, to our distinguished speakers. For your information, I'm kind of different than the other speakers because most of the speakers, they are learned lawyers. Like Dato' Sriwan Junaidi, he was a lawyer. He was a deputy speaker. And then Yang Berbahagia Dominic Ng, he's a lawyer. And Yang Berbahagia Dato' David Teng, he's a lawyer. And then Iswadi, he's a graduate in law degree. And I'm, on the other hand, I'm still a law student. So it's quite tough for me if I to present something which is not really to say it's my field, but I'm going to present it in the view of the youngsters or the youth in Sarawak and Malaysia as a whole. So firstly, regarding people always said about referendum. I understand some of the sentiment outside there. They were talking about referendum. But bear in mind, among the average, above average, who understand the meaning of referendum would say that what is referendum? They will answer referendum is like we're going to pull out from Malaysia. I think that is kind of too subjective. What referendum is? Referendum is not something that you need to spread from one entity become two entity. It's something that you give the power back to the people to choose, to give them the voice, a say, either yes or no, through direct democracy. So, before that, if people say that, people like to compare referendum with this UK style of referendum. One thing for sure we need to understand is that in UK, there's no constitution. In UK, there's no constitution. In UK, there's no constitution. The Magna Carta, that one, not to say it's a constitution, it's a written document which established the parliament, the House of Lords, before it's turned into, they create another House of Commons. However, in UK, since there's no constitution, there's no written constitution, it's an unwritten constitution country, so the parliament is supreme compared to the constitution, because there's no constitution. So parliament is supreme, and that's why the parliament can initiate referendum with, it's up to them what kind of referendum they want to initiate, because parliament is supreme, there's no constitution. Now, the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy does not apply in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we practice constitutional supremacy. The power of parliament and of state legislation in Malaysia is limited by the constitution, and they cannot make any new law they please. You can't just simply make any law if it's contradict to the constitution. If you create any kind of law which contradict the constitution, if you change it in the court, the court might say that it's null and void and contradict to the constitution. So that is Malaysia. Compared in UK, you can enact any kind of law you want. And then, number 2, Article 4, Clause 1 of the Federal Constitution provides this Constitution is the supreme law of the Federation, and any law passed after Merdeka Day which is inconsistent with this Constitution shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. And number 3, I think some of them are lawyers here. In the case of Sivarasa Rasyah versus Badan Peguam Malaysia, 2010, the federal court, speaking through Gopal Sri Ram, which I quote, "Further, it is clear from the way in which the federal constitution is constructed, there are certain features that constitute its basic fabric. Unless sanctioned by the constitution itself, any statute, including one amending the constitution that offends the basic structure, may be struck down as unconstitutional. Suffice to say that the rights guaranteed by Part 2, which are enforceable in the courts from part of the basic structure of the Federal Constitution." This can be seen in the case of Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. Why I brought up this matter before I want to talk about referendum? Because if you see, you can say that, like I agree with what Dato' Teng said, we should have a referendum to give back the voice to people so that people can decide what they want and the yes or no. But if it's contrary to the Constitution, what will be the implication? What will be the implication?
Change the Constitution.
In order to change the Constitution, like I said, like Dato' Teng said just now, you need 2/3 majority. We don't even have 2/3 majority in the parliament. That's the thing. Even if we don't have the 2/3 majority, we did try our best to bring back the rights to the people, but it was rejected. That is another political argument. Now, you see that people say that UK can, how come you can't care? UK boleh buat itu referendum, sebarang saja boleh buat. Well, like I said just now, UK have no federal, there's no constitution, so they can do anything they want. The parliament can initiate any kind of referendum. For example, in UK, throughout UK history, political history, there have been 13 referendums has been initiated by the government. However, only 9 succeeded, 4 defeated. Number 1, in 1974, the UK Parliament initiated a referendum on Northern Ireland border poll. It was stated, the question was asked, do you want Northern Ireland to be part of the United Kingdom? 98.9% say yes. Do you want Northern Ireland to be joined with the Republic of Ireland? 1.1% say no. So what is the aftermath? What is the implication of the result? Number 1, guardsman by the name of Anton Brown of the 2nd Battalion was shot dead in Belfast. And Provisional Irish Republican Army, IRA, planted 4 car bombs in London, causing 1 death and injuring 200. This is UK. We're talking about developed country. What more to say? We, Malaysia, we just a developing country. We're not, our level of mentality is not as developed as UK. So even UK, they initiate referendum, they have this kind of impact. Number 2, 1975, the government initiated UK European Committee's membership referendum by the Labour government under Harold Wilson. The government has announced the results of the renegotiation of the United Kingdom's terms of membership of the European Union. They asked in the referendum, do you think the United Kingdom should stay in the European community? 67% say yes, 32% say no. Number 3, this is what we are facing right now. People are talking about devolution of power, devolution power. Yes, it sounds very easy to devolve power, but in reality, it doesn't sound that easy. In reality, it's quite difficult. The first initiative by the UK government in 1979, Scottish devolution referendum. This is the first time. Do you want the provisions of the Scottish Act 1978 to be put into effect? 51.6% say yes. 48.38% say no. You see, even in Scotland, they have this kind of sentiment, quite very strong at that time. It was very strong at that time, the separatist sentiment. Yet, the numbers of people who supported the referendum is below 75%. It's 58%. So, out of that 58% who voted for yes, the turnout is only 64.62%. The turnout is only 63.72%. It's not 100%. If it's 100%, then you can see the result have the carries legitimacy, carries weight. But if it's only 63%, out of 63% voter turnout who voted for the referendum, 51 say yes. Out of 51, meaning to say it's only 32% out of all Scottish people, Scottish electorate supported the bills, the referendum. So do you think 32% can determine the future of the whole state? I think that is totally absurd. It's totally absurd and anathema to democracy. And that's why, you see, the government in UK, not just in UK, even the whole country, throughout the country, we have a lot of kind of referendums. Even referendums in Timor-Leste, 1999. And then the previous years, referendum in Greek on asking for the people whether we should go for austerity or not. So there's a lot of kind of referendum. But in doing so, we have to think about the implication. It's not that I'm against the referendum, nor I agree with referendum. It all depends on those who have been elected, democratically elected by the people. It all depends on them. It all depends on the political will, whether they want to have a referendum or not. But in order to have a referendum, like I said, in Malaysia, it's not a parliamentary supremacy. There's no parliamentary supremacy, but constitutional supremacy. So, if you want to start referendum, number one, what all the democratically elected representatives should do is that they should table a motion in the parliament to pass the referendum act. Because if you keep on talking about referendum without the key for referendum, it's useless. It's useless, and people say it's a fluxinol-kinihilification. It's something useless for you to think about.
3 minutes, please.
Thank you, moderator. So this is the thing about the referendum that what I believe. I'm not against, nor am I support. But give me another 5 minutes, just a little bit. Okay. For those who, there are 3 primary reasons why one might consider referendums a good idea. First, is their intrinsic worth? First is their intrinsic worth as an exercise in direct democracy. Referendum campaigns engage national publics, often passive and sometimes actively excluded, in the business of political debate and decision making. Those who see virtue in the idea of a more direct link between the popular will and the levers of power therefore admire them as an instrument of empowerment for the too often neglected people. Second, in the cases of difficult negotiations over a peace settlement in societies afflicted by years of civil conflict, the prospect of a popular vote on the final deal concentrates the minds of those negotiating on coming up proposals that can be politically sustained. The ultimate role of the whole population in deciding whether the deal sticks can be important in prodding elites otherwise comfortable and secure in their fractional power, to do the harder work of engaging with the bigger political picture. And number three, third one, a referendum may be useful to ensure a broad base of political support for a controversial decision and lock in a choice that will necessitate riding out unpopular consequences during the implementation. If concessions need to be made to those who committed crimes during a conflict, or if a cause will impose severe economic costs, or if a divisive point principle is at issue, endorsement by direct popular vote will likely aid political stability and also bind not just the present government but those that follow it. However, there are criticisms of these referendums. Referendums has been portrayed as a favorite tool of populist and autocratic leaders. The empirical evidence, however, does not support this. The total numbers of plebiscites in dictatorships has fallen. Well-functioning constitutional constraint rather than populist agitation have been the driving forces behind many referendums in democracy. Further, where populist leaders have pushed for referendums, the resulting votes have not generally gone in their favor. The referendum has generally been a mechanism for strengthening democracy, a people's shield, even when governments have attempted to wield it as a sword. Critics of the referendum argue that voters in referendums are more likely to be driven by transient whims than by careful deliberation. James Madison, former president of United States, once argued that direct democracy is the tyranny of majority. Some opposition to the referendum has arisen from its use by dictators such as Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. And dictators may also make use of referendums as well as show elections to further legitimize their authority, such as Benito Mussolini in 1934, Adolf Hitler in 1936, Ferdinand Marcos in 1973, Park Chung-hee in 1972, and Francisco Franco in 1947. Now, above all, I would like to conclude, above all the key principle of referendums for any government is this. To those who are in the government and to those who are in opposition, in Sarawak or in the parliament, if you call one referendum, you had better be certain you are going to win. Because if you don't, the political costs for both the leaders responsible and the country at large are very vast. So if you initiate a referendum, make sure that you win. If you don't win the referendum, the next election, any party who initiate the referendum, if they lost the votes, they will be defeated by the people. And therefore, I concluded my presentation for this referendum. Thank you and good evening. Good night.
Thank you very much, Saudara Aziz.